Hi, I'm Steve, and I've had a number of requests to cover how I set up the lock miter shaper cutter. This will be applicable to router bits as well, but let's head over to the shaper and I'll show you how I set it up. There's a dimension that you need to know for whatever bit or cutter that you're using, and that is the dimension from this cutting edge here to this cutting edge here. And the trick to setting this up is to get your center of your workpiece set up to the center between this face and this face. Now for this cutter, from the manufacturer's drawing, this dimension is 9 millimeters. So half of that would be 4.5 millimeters. So I would want to set the height of this cutter up to where this center of this matches the center of the workpiece that I'm going to cut. If you do not have the dimension from your manufacturer's data, take a ruler or a scale and measure the distance between that and that. So now that the shaper cutter is installed, or your router bit, depending upon what you're using, the best way I found to set up is to have a height measurement gauge, and I like the digital ones. You don't have to have that. This is a one-way, and I've replaced the indicator with a digital, let's see what that is, a clockwise, or even the eye gauging. And the reason I like this one because it's got magnets on it, and it's spring-loaded, so it'll follow. This is spring-loaded as well. So if you have one that's not spring-loaded, it's just a little more awkward to use. You can use it, but I just find them a bit too fiddly. And the reason I'm using this one as opposed to this one is because I think the digital display will show up better because this one will always be vertical. And some digital calipers, or dial calipers, it doesn't really matter. Another thing you'll need are two pieces of the material thickness that you want to join. Don't worry too much about the width, they just need to be enough to handle, and these are approximately 12 inches or 300 millimeters long. First thing you'll need to do is figure out the material thickness, and I've zeroed my calipers, and I'll take several measurements. That's about 17.8, 17.8 millimeters. You can use imperial if you want, 17.8, 17.8, 17.8. So I've got 17.8 millimeters is my material thickness that I want to join, and I want to figure out what half of that is. So half of 17.8 I think is 8.9 millimeters. So I'm just going to write that on one of these pieces, 8.9 millimeters. Okay, the very first step will be to set up your spindle height. But I'm going to set that indicator to that flat on the top of the lip for the lock miter. So to simplify this, what I want to do is lower the cutter until this indicator indicates 4.5 millimeters above the table height. This is actually easier if you have manual hand wheels. So right now the spindle height's adjusted to where the center of this and the top face here and the bottom face of the locking portion is 4.5 millimeters above the table, so it's centered. Basically, if you want to consider zero thickness stock, that's centered for zero thickness stock. The next step I use, and this is why I like the digital ones, is I'm going to zero that at that point. I'm just going to zero it, if I can get it right. Okay, I'm zero now. So now remember the measurement of the thickness stock I had is 8.9 millimeters. So I want to raise the spindle 8.9 millimeters. Okay, 8.89, that's close enough to not 8.9 to me. So right now I've adjusted my spindle height. So I'm done with this tool right now. And what I just did, let me move this out of the way, is that for this thickness stock, I've got the center between here and here, right at my stock center. So I'm done with adjusting my spindle height now. Okay, the next step will be to set the fence position. First thing you want to do is, this is why you need two pieces, and these are not test pieces, these are setup pieces. You'll want to use one of your pieces as a spacer between the fence and your setup piece. And you'll set this flat up against the fence. You don't want it to be bowed or anything. If you've got any bow, you need to either press that out or flatten it. And what I'm looking to do here is use this piece as a spacer, and what I want to get is that cutting edge to just touch the corner of this piece. And I came way too far forward. Let's see how far I need to, see if I need to go back, maybe 10 millimeters. Still a bit further. So that's 26. I'm getting close. Okay, I don't know whether let me zoom the camera in here. Now I'm going to lock the fence down because I'm close. Probably need to lock the fence plates too. Now, if you note right here, that cutting edge is contacting the corner. If I were to mark that, I actually went too far back, so I'm going to bring the fence forward just a little bit. And what I want is just that cutting edge to just scrape that corner, and right now you can see it's still moving the workpiece back. I'm still not forward far enough, so I'm going to come up another 0.2 of a millimeter. So now, alright, what I've got here, and I just like to listen, hold this tight up against here, and I can just hear that cutter scrape the corner of this sheet goods. So right now I should be good. I'm going to lock the fence down. And actually what I probably need to do is move this fence plate in a little more. Since I'm so close now, I don't know whether the camera can hit that up over the noise, but you can just hear a I think I'm set up there for my fence position. As a second check, I can go flop things around and I can check the upper portion of my cutter. So right now, if I do this is my stock thickness. I should come up here and be able to duplicate the same thing. Back that out of the way. And I don't know whether the camera can pick that up. You can just see this cutting edge right here just touches that corner. And I just hear a click, 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 click as I go around. If I can't hear anything, it means I've got a gap. And if I've got a gap, that means I'm going to get a flat spot when I make this cut. If I'm taking too much, I will end up with snipe in the cut. Neither one of which are good things. So that's the setup should be done. I want to show you some consideration, particularly with this is an Eigner integral fence. I think there's at least one other segmented fence. I'm not sure what the brand name is, but if you've got solid aluminum plates or wood plates on your fences, this will not be of concern to you. Now when I make that cut, I'm going to end up with a knife edge here. Now with this fence, if you look at the material thickness here, that knife edge will fall in this gap here. So what I like to do is raise the outfeed fence such that that knife edge will fall approximately in the middle of that segment. So once I get the outfeed fence height set up to where the knife edge falls about in the middle of that solid segment, I'll adjust the infeed fence. So you get your fingers out. Whether I can get that one over or not, we'll see. I think I can. But I'll adjust the infeed fence height such that the fingers will engage, and that will provide support when I run the workpiece through vertically. So that's in essence the setup that I use. My experience with this has been this method gets you spot on pretty much every time. If I ever had to make an adjustment, it's only by 1/10 of a millimeter, and it's always the fence position. You want to look for here is to make sure you have a knife edge here, and also just feel this edge for snipe, and I'm not feeling any snipe on this outfeed side, so I think I've got that cutter set up good. If I had the fence set too far out, I would have snipe on either the infeed side or the outfeed side, and I'm not getting any of that. So this is the first half, the horizontal half of the lock miter cutter. Okay, so now I got the vertical cut made. Now let's check the fit. And I'm probably going to have to clamp this out because both of these, or one of these, has quite a bit of bow to it. Watch these knife edges, you get splinters. And I think that's about as perfect a fit as I'm going to get. Got the points meeting, nothing hanging over, no flat edges, and the inside corners meeting. If you've got any questions or comments, post them below. I'll try to answer them. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.